I'm 17, and I'm pretty sure I'm a psychopath.
Stay awake for too long, don't go to bed. I'll make a cup of coffee for your head. I'll get you up and going out of bed.
Yeah, I don't wanna fall asleep, I don't wanna pass away. I've been thinking of our future cause I'll never see those days. I don't know why this has happened, but I probably deserve it. I tried to do my best, but you know that I'm not perfect. I've been praying for forgiveness, you've been praying for my health. When I leave this earth, hoping you'll find someone else. Cause yeah, we still young, there's so much we haven't done. Getting married, start a family, watch your husband with his son. I wish it could be me, but I won't make it off this bed. I hope I go to heaven so I see you once again. My life was kinda short, but I got so many blessings. Happy you were mine, it sucks that it's all ending. For too long, don't go to bed. I'll make a cup of coffee for your head.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Welcome back to our YouTube channel. My name is Reza Octaviani, and here we will show you how to be an interviewer and interview. Me, Reza Octaviani, as interviewer, and my friends Rina Pangaribuan as interview. So let's watching.
嫌い嫌い嫌い嫌い君のことなんかでも好き好き好き好きだからここが言いたいよ
Good afternoon, Ms. Reja. With me, Rina Pangaribuan, want to interview Ms. Berkeley about the coronavirus, which has spread in various countries to our country.
Okay guys, so I will answer all the questions from Miss Rina Pangaribuan. But before I answer the question, we will say sorry that we must doing this interview from video call because the virus in our country, so we can meet each other. So I'll answer the question. The first, I say good afternoon to Ms. Rina Pangaribuan. So I will share my experience or how about my feel reaction in our condition right now about virus COVID-19. And we would know that if the coronavirus come from Wuhan and spread all over the world, including Indonesia, and this is very pure in our country, and my feeling like I'm very sad with this situation and this condition. But we must know that we must keep spirit and we must keep healthy.
Oh yeah, Miss. Are you still actively working until now?
Yes, I'm still actively working until now, and my company keep us from virus COVID-19, inshallah. Yes, we are still working until now.
Is there no policy from the company, Miss, to the work from home?
Oh no, ma'am. Because I work at a company that doesn't allow me to do work from home like other company, and well, like us do work with machine which can only be done in a company different from office or other companies. So we can't do this work in home or like other person like work from home. We can't do that. So we start working at company at 6 a.m. and we finish our job in 6 p.m. like that.
So, how do you feel as an employee? Is there a feeling of being afraid or anxious about getting COVID-19 because they are still doing work at the company now?
How about my feelings? My feelings are certainly anxious and worried, afraid, but I have to work because this is my responsibility and I must do that.
So, Miss, being afraid of getting this virus,
Yeah, unfortunately, this condition make all of us. It's very hard in this condition. We are now, we are know about this condition, and yes, sure, we are worried, we are afraid, and I'm like a worker in a company. I think like I'm afraid, but sometimes I think to stop. I think to stop and back to point. This is about responsibility. So I just pray and hopes this will be gone soon. So we can working like the day before and Indonesia will save like the day.
how do you overcome this fear?
I just keep my distance from other. Don't gather in the crowded. Don't cuddle. Don't shake hand. And if there is no business, don't leave your home. Stay at home and don't forget to pray.
Do you not want to make a leave of absence because the virus cannot be known for its transmission?
Pardon me, paid leave. That's not a good solution in my opinion. So because everyone definitely needs it, and we don't know when this virus will be stopped. So the solution is to keep your head and don't forget to use hand sanitizer and don't hold your face or nose. So don't never you hold your nose and your face. And yeah, I think that is the best solution.
So, have you ever how to avoid this virus? What are tools?
Well done. And like what I say before, don't panic and stay at home if you don't have important business. Don't get out. And for us, as a worker like me, obey the rules that have been made in our company, and the most importantly from for me and for our is pray. As a closing from me, never underestimate COVID-19. Many people have died. Crying is everywhere. We cannot deliver the corpse of our own family who are affected by COVID-19. We can deliver. We should be aware. We help the medical team. We don't leave the house. Work with using masks and please don't think this is not a joke. Indonesia is grieving. We are all sad and then let's obey all the rules and don't forget to praise. Inshallah, Indonesia will be safe and we can track our jobs, our activity like the days before COVID-19 comes to our country. So let us pray and please obey the rules. Please obey the rules and don't leave your home. If you don't have work or business, please stay at home. Work from home and please save your body, keep spirit and love yourself. Thank you. Maybe just it from me and let's save our country, Indonesia. Thank you.
Dan berikut kita lihat bagaimana potensi kerugian ekonomi global akibat wabah virus corona. Ini ada grafik sederhana yang sudah kita susun untuk Anda. Kalau kita amati, Tiongkok merupakan negara dengan ekonomi terbesar kedua di dunia. Kalau kemudian ada wabah virus corona yang melanda saat ini di Tiongkok, tentu ini akan ada efek domino dan juga bagaimana pukulan terhadap berkembangnya ekonomi secara global. Dan karena memang seperti yang kita ketahui bahwa sepertiga dari pertumbuhan ekonomi global ini juga berasal dari negeri tirai bambu ini. Dan kita lihat apa kemudian konsekuensi logis yang harus dijalani atau harus diterima oleh sejumlah negara, khususnya negara-negara yang berada di Asia Tenggara. Terlebih dahulu kita lihat bagaimana dari potensi kerugian ekonomi akibat virus corona ini, dari persentase PDB ekonomi global ini akan berada pada posisi atau persentasenya minus 0,4% dengan potensi kerugian ekonomi ini berada di 347 miliar US dollar. Sementara untuk Tiongkok sendiri kita ketahui kerugiannya cukup besar di minus 1,7% dari PDB dan kalau kita bicara angka ini bisa mencapai 237 miliar US dollar. Dan sementara untuk negara-negara Asia berkembang lainnya termasuk Indonesia ini ada potensi kerugian PDB 0 atau minus 0,5 atau secara angka ini berada di 42 miliar US dollar. Kita coba lihat bagaimana dampak ekonomi akibat virus corona ini. Untuk beberapa negara yang paling dekat dengan Tiongkok, kita lihat di kawasan Asia saja terlebih dahulu. Ada beberapa negara kalau lihat persentasenya di Thailand dan juga di Singapura ini cukup tinggi angka kerugian yang dikeluarkan oleh Asian Development Bank itu bisa mencapai minus 1,11%. Kenapa kemudian ini menjadi tinggi? Karena memang kita tahu bahwa populasi Tiongkok yang cukup besar ini juga menjadi salah satu tempat atau Thailand ini menjadi salah satu negara yang memang banyak dikunjungi oleh warga Tiongkok. Berikutnya di Singapura juga begitu, minus 0,57%. Ini dampak dari ekonomi akibat virus corona yang terjadi dan berlangsung saat ini. Dan sementara untuk Indonesia dan Malaysia ini berada di rentang persentase yang hampir bersamaan di minus 0,22% dan minus 0,23%. Sementara untuk Tiongkok sendiri ini berada di minus 0,76%. Kita coba bergeser apa kemudian sektor terdampak virus corona seperti yang tadi saya sampaikan bahwa ada efek domino yang kemudian bisa diakibatkan dari wabah yang saat ini masih tengah berlangsung di sana. Ada bisnis, perdagangan dan layanan publik ini mendapatkan kerugian diperkirakan 94 miliar US dollar dan sementara untuk agrikultur pertambangan ini berada di angka 32 miliar US dollar dan sementara untuk manufaktur dan konstruksi ini di 73 miliar US dollar dan sementara untuk hotel dan restoran ada di 19 miliar US dollar. Ini dia apa kemudian dampak dari sektor-sektor yang kemudian ikut terpukul dari wabah corona yang masih berada di Tiongkok dan sekarang sudah menyebar di hampir 73 negara di dunia. Kita lihat bagaimana penanganan dan apa kemudian implikasinya terhadap Indonesia. Walaupun angkanya masih minus, tapi kemudian dengan protokol yang tadi sudah dikeluarkan oleh pemerintah melalui KSP, ini kemudian tentu bisa menganulir semua dampak-dampak yang tentu akan bisa membuat ekonomi ini menjadi semakin terpuruk.
Hello and welcome to everyone joining us from around the globe. Thank you for being part of day 2 of our special series, TED Connects. This week, we're bringing you interviews from some of the world's greatest minds to offer tools for us to navigate through and thrive in these really uncertain times. I'm Whitney Pennington Rogers, TED's Current Affairs Curator, and I'll be one of your hosts for today's event. Yesterday, we kicked off this series with an interview from acclaimed psychologist Susan David, who offered us some tips on how to really be our best selves in these trying times. And we're going to switch gears a little bit today from thinking about our own personal mental health to the state of our global public health systems.
Thank you. I guess we have a pretty exciting guest to introduce. On the other side of the country, let's bring in Bill Gates. Bill, they say the better known people are, the less you have to intro them. So it's great to have you here. How are you doing?
Well, I think this is an unprecedented, really disconcerting time for everyone, with things being shut down, not knowing exactly how long it's going to last, worrying about the health of all the people we care about. I'm lucky that I get to connect up with video conferencing using Teams a lot, so the foundation is stepping up, and there's a lot of great people trying to help with this crisis. But it's scary for everyone.
Are you basically stuck at home like many of us watching?
Yeah, almost all my meetings are using Teams now. I'm getting used to that. I've gone days without seeing any co-workers.
Let's start here, Bill. 5 years ago, you stood on the TED stage and you gave this chilling warning that the world was in danger at some point of a major pandemic. People watching that talk now, the hair stands up in the back of their neck. It is exactly what we're living through. What happened? Did people listen to that warning at all?
Basically, no. I was hopeful that with the Zika and Ebola and SARS and MERS, they all reminded us that particularly in a world where people move around so much, you can get huge devastation. And so the talk was to say, hey, we're not ready for the next pandemic, but in fact, there's advances in science that if we put resources against them, we can be ready. Sadly, very little was done. There were some things. The Coalition for Epidemic Preparedness Innovation, CEPI, was funded by our foundation, Wellcome Trust, and a number of governments to do some of the platform vaccine work. But in the area of diagnostics, antibodies, antivirals, basically doing the disease games that I talked about where we'd simulate what needed to be done, we hardly did anything. And so now here we have a respiratory virus that is sadly fulfilling some of the more negative predictions I made.
I mean, last month you said that this might be the big one. You wrote that this could be the sort of once in a century pandemic that people had been fearing. Is that how you think of it still?
Well, it's awful to say this, but we could have a respiratory virus whose case fatality rate was even higher. If this was something like smallpox, that kills 30% of people. So this is horrific. But, in fact, most people, even who get the COVID disease, are able to survive. So in that, it's quite infectious, way more infectious than MERS or SARS were. It's not as fatal as they were. And yet the disruption we're seeing in order to knock it down is really completely unprecedented. So this is it's going global. It's respiratory. That was the great fear. How many people end up dying? Hopefully, if we do the right things, it won't be a gigantic number. So it's, we should end up not having a 1918 flu situation, we should be able to do a lot better than that.
And that's because of actions that we would take. I mean, left without the right actions, the prospects are pretty deadly. I mean, if we knew what we knew in 1919, this thing could take out many tens of millions of people around the world. Because, like you said, is the key thing here that it's got this sort of strange combination of being certainly more dangerous than flu, not as dangerous as something like Ebola or SARS, but more dangerous than flu by a factor, but infectious, and also infectious before symptoms have started. Is that part of why it's been really hard to respond to?
Right. So Ebola, you're actually flat on your back before you're very infectious. So you're not at church or in a bus or at a store. With most respiratory viruses like the flu and COVID, at first you only feel a little bit of a fever and a little bit sick. And so there's the possibility you're going about your normal activities and infecting other people. And so, human-to-human transmissible respiratory viruses that in the early stage aren't stopping you from doing things, that's kind of a worst case. And that's where, I did a flu simulation in the 2015 talk and showed how quickly it spread. Versus 1918, people move around a lot more now than they used to. And so that works against us. Now, the medical system that steps up to treat people is also far, far better.
But when was it clear to you that that unless we acted, this could be a really deadly pandemic?
Well, in January, it was discussed that there was human-to-human transmission taking place. And so, the alarm bells were ringing that this fits the very scary pattern, that it will be very difficult to contain. And on January 23rd, China did their equivalent of the shutdown, did it in a fairly extreme form. The very good news is that they were able to reduce the infection rates dramatically because of those actions. But it's January where everybody should have been on notice. Let's get our act together with testing. Let's get going on therapeutics and vaccines. We've got to get organized because we have this novel respiratory virus whose infectiousness and fatality put it in that super scary range.
And so what did happen? Because it's such a mystery to me about the sort of the lost month of preparation. Certainly, I mean, in many countries, and certainly in the US, where we are. Were you on the phone to people during early February, late January, early February, saying, guys, what's going on? This is a really big deal. What are we doing? What was happening behind the scenes during that period?
Well, you'd like to have government money show up for the key activities. We put out $100 million. We created the Therapeutics Accelerator. There's the period between when we realized it was transmitting and now where we should have done more. I think the most important thing to discuss today is that in the area of testing, we're still not creating that capacity and applying it to the people most in need. And so we have health workers who are symptomatic who can't get a test, and so they don't know should they go in and not go in. And yet we have lots of tests being given to people who aren't symptomatic. And so the testing thing, to me, it's got to be organized. It's got to be prioritized. That is super, super urgent. The second thing is the isolation that, various parts, just focusing on the US, some parts are doing that in a fairly strong way and other parts not yet. And, it's very hard to do. It's tough on people. It's disastrous for the economy. But the sooner you do it in a tough way, the sooner you can undo it and go back to normal.
So we'll come to the isolation part in a minute, but just sticking with the testing thing, I'm just so confused as to why, with more than a month's notice, I mean, there are so many smart epidemiologists in the US, for example. You plug numbers about infectiousness and fatality into any simulation, and you see that if you don't do anything, millions of people will die. And there's a month. So what's your explanation for what do you think happened here as to why there was almost no test? A month later, there was no viable test in the US. Was this just government complexity, too many chefs in the kitchen? What on earth happened here?
Well, we certainly didn't take advantage of the month of February. The good news is that the actual process, the PCR machines, we have a lot in the United States. And so there's models like South Korea who took advantage of February, built up the testing capacity, and they were able to contact trace, and their infections have gone down even without the type of shutdown that, because we're late, we're having to do. One thing that is good news just this week is that people had thought to do this test that you had to have a nurse or doctor shove a swab way up all the way to the back of your throat, which hurts a lot, but also you're going to cough and potentially spread the disease to that healthcare worker. So they have to have protective equipment and change that. What we sent data to the FDA this weekend showing that just a individual by themselves swabbing up to the tip of their nose, they're able, the accuracy of that test is essentially the same as having a healthcare worker do it. That helps a lot. We still have to do other things, but that means that you don't have to change protective equipment. You just hand the patient that swab, they do it, put it in the test tube, and if the capacity's right, within 24 hours, you should get that result back.
So how do you see that playing out? Are there people going to massively scale those tests, and how will ordinary citizens be able to get hold of them? Does it still have to be actually kind of prescribed by a doctor at some point, or at some point will you be able to just order them off Amazon or something? And
well, it's pretty chaotic today because the government hasn't stepped in to make sure that the testing capacity is both increased and it's used for the right cases. There'll be a website, and if the federal government doesn't do it, a lot of local governments will have to do it, that you go to, you give your situation, including your symptoms. You're told, based on your work and your symptoms, are you a priority? If so, you're told where there are kiosks you can go to, and you'll do the self-swab and just hand it over. Or eventually, we'll send the kits to you at home, and then you'll send it back and hear that result. Maybe 6 months from now, you'll actually be able to you have a strip where you perform the test in the home. But for now, sending it back for the PCR processing, we can have massive capacity there. And that's how you know the testing is everything, because that's how you know whether you need to do more shutdown or you're starting to get to the point where you can relieve it.
Some people are trying to argue now that almost the testing should be dialed back because the cat is out of the bag. Testing is bringing people together and risking infection. Forget that. Let's just focus on treatment and on isolation strategies. You disagree with that? Testing is still absolutely essential and needs to be scaled dramatically.
Well, the two that go together are testing at very high volume and the isolation piece. If you're a medical worker, you want to stay and do your job. If you're making sure the electricity, water, food is still available, you want to do your job. And so testing is what indicates to you, do you need to go into isolation and make sure you're not the source of spread? And so, testing is the key thing. South Korea did that in this massive way that everybody should learn from. And so that is paired with the isolation piece. Our goal here is to get to the point where a very small percentage of the population is infected. China, only 0.01% of the population was infected. If you don't do these things, you're going to get to the majority of people infected and that huge overload of the medical system.
Whitney has some questions from our online audience. Whitney.
Some of the questions that we're seeing are about how our tech giants and leaders can play a role in isolating this and containing this virus.
The tech companies are very involved in making sure that some work can go on. People can stay in touch. They can help with some of the disease modeling. They can help with the visibility of the numbers. It's actually very impressive. You get up there and you can see, those numbers. Actually, they're sad numbers, but, everybody's able to monitor this thing. Back in 1918, they didn't have this type of visibility and ability to share best practices. But for a lot of people, the isolation is the key thing.
I mean, Bill, one of the riddles about this isolation strategy is how long it has to last, right? Like a lot of people are concerned that the price of victory by isolating everyone is that you crash the economy and that, we have to be basically at home, not doing our regular jobs for 3-6 months, maybe all year. And so much so that there's now this big debate in the US and other countries about this may just be the wrong strategy, that we can't crash the economy that badly. We should only isolate for another couple of weeks and then let people back. And if that means, a lot of other people get sick and we eventually build up herd immunity, that may be the right way to go. What's your thought on this? What is the isolation strategy that eventually leads to us getting back to normal?
And it's very tough to say to people, hey, keep going to restaurants, go buy new houses. Ignore that pile of bodies over in the corner. Just, we want you to keep spending because there's some, maybe a politician who thinks GDP growth is what really counts. It's very hard to tell people when there's an epidemic.